And welcome back to Janky AF and Year of the Aerostar, episode 35. Well, you may notice that I'm not wearing my Ford hat that I wear in every single video. It's not available. It's a long story. It will be available again, but for now I'm wearing my Buick hat. So I like that in this series there'll be little anomalies, you know, the Buick hat episode. So this is the Buick hat episode, episode 35. Well, saw this one come up in the one of the Facebook Ford Aerostar community pages, and had to talk about it before it got away. And you may see my bright Cayman Green shirt on, and that will be a good introduction into this. Here we have a 1994 Ford Aerostar, listed in Cambridge City, Indiana. Now we are doing sort of a Midwest tour of Aerostars right now. I want to get back to South Dakota and of course Idaho, where there are many great Aerostars. But here we're making a brief stop in Indiana. Only 110,000 miles on this beautiful van, automatic transmission, and the exterior color is green. Now I believe this is the same green, Cayman Green, as I've recently found out the color name is, as my 1993 Ford Aerostar. And on that note, I will say I recently had a request for more content on my own Aerostars, and I was so glad for that comment, because I really do need to make some more and show you all at home my real life Aerostars that I have the privilege of driving. The green one is taking longer than expected for a very minor repair, unfortunately, but my 86 brown Aerostar I have no excuses for, and I will give you some treats regarding that vehicle very soon. But today we focus on this. I believe it must be the Cayman Green. Now this is a legendary Ford color. See a lot of Fox body and SN95 Mustangs in this color. Of course, Ford Rangers in this color. It's a beautiful color. I absolutely love it. And it looks a bluish green, but it looks much more green in this picture. I think that's more captures. I call it a teal. It's almost like a deep teal. And it's just a gorgeous color. And of course here we see it with a beautiful two-tone gold underbody, or rather lower section, and it's just in immaculate shape. We have my favorite Aerostar style hubcaps, where they have this like chrome look to them, really high quality hubcap. Hubcap gets it has hubcaps, meaning it doesn't have like alloy wheels. But back in the day, most cars, or a lot of cars, had hubcaps. You know, you would have a very nice steel wheel, not just like your basic black steel wheel. A lot of times they were painted, and then you would have your hubcap, which covers up like your hub assembly basically. Or your lug nuts, you know, and it was just a decorative thing. And then it became something that covered up the entire wheel altogether, and it became like a faux wheel, like it was like sort of now a facsimile of the wheel, and it sort of evolved. But I always have loved hubcaps. I think there's no shame in having hubcaps on your vehicle, and I think these are very, very beautiful hubcaps on this Aerostar. We see a nice little bug deflector here, very tasteful, this Aerostar. And then of course your running boards, which we just saw that beautiful Aerostar in Montana with running boards, and these look to be the same ones, which makes me think this was sort of like a factory running board that Ford offered. It integrates so nicely into your wheel well arches. Again, gold bumpers, and you know, the bumper lines ride perfectly into this lower trim section here, and then continue down into the running boards. Just a really stunning looking Aerostar. It is of course an extended version, and it's just beautiful. Now I wish we had a couple more pictures. Specifically the interior looks like you might have a gold interior, which goes perfect on this vehicle with the red piping seats too. So really just a crispy Aerostar. Factory roof rack, and it looks to be in quite immaculate condition, you know. Really, maybe one little ding here on the wheel well arch, but we don't know what the other side looks like. But from all appearances, a gorgeous Aerostar. And whatever reason, the way the light was shining this day, or the sun, wherever it was, now you do see a little bit of, looks like discoloration. You wonder if this has been repainted, or maybe it's just the sun playing tricks on us, or it's faded a little bit differently. But I like that. I like when, I love variation on a theme. I love monochromatic, and I actually like when there's just slight discoloration between body panels, even though it's the same color. I like wildly different body panels too, like sort of a Harlequin style. But doesn't bother me none. I really like it. It's sort of like a, like a very low-key patina that started to work its magic on this beautiful, beautiful color. And boy, when the light hits this color, I can't tell you, this Cayman Green, it's just a very, very wonderful color. I think my only other favorite teal would be, and I'm forgetting what it's called, I wish I knew, I think it's Ocean Jade Metallic, the Porsche color. And that 996 Porsche, is it 997? I always get the 996 and 997 confused. I believe it's the 996, the Yoki Egg one, the one that everyone hated originally. There's an Ocean Jade Metallic with a gray leather interior. Oh, if I could ever get my hands on one of those, that is truly a dream car for me. Anyways, I digress. Let's read the description, shall we? 1994 Ford Aerostar minivan, driven 110,000 miles. Wanting to trade my work van for a work truck. It runs and drives and heat and AC works. Great. Just gotta have a truck. Well, I understand that. The Aerostar is not quite a truck. Now, it wasn't exactly built on the Ranger platform per se. There's some suspension differences and some frame differences. Suffice it to say that it's beefier than a normal van. It's rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, and a lot of Ranger components are shared with the Aerostar, including in some cases the engine, because the 4-liter Ford engine, quite a legendary engine, I'd say, not known for pretty bad gas mileage, but just a workhorse engine, good power. Came in both the Ranger and the Aerostar. Also coming in the Ranger and Aerostar was the 3-liter V6, and that is what this Aerostar has. A very common motor. The 4-liter, I'm finding, I just commented on another great comment in which I'm realizing how rare the 4-liter was. Now, all-wheel drives got it standard, and then it was optional in your rear-wheel drives, and you really don't see a lot of them, even in your extended versions. You think maybe in the extended version people would spring for the 4-liter motor, but you really don't see it that often. So I do appreciate it, but my 93 has a 3-liter, and coming from the 2.3-liter 4-cylinder that's in my 86 Aerostar, anything feels powerful. So that thing certainly had enough grunt for me. I was cruising down the freeway with it, doing just fine. And so there you have it. It's a 3-liter V6 rear-wheel drive and just had sliding door handle replaced. And I'm located in Cambridge City, Indiana. Thank you. Well, thank you, Cambridge City, Indiana, for offering this beautiful Aerostar at a very, very reasonable price. I mean, I think I'm going to do a whole video on how underappreciated, not in like, fan terms, which I think it's clearly underappreciated in that car culture world, but just undervalued these Aerostars are. I mean, for any running vehicle with 110,000 miles on it for $1,500, it's extremely cheap. Now, throw in the practicality of the van, the classic nature of it. I mean, obviously I'm biased, so I just think that, any Aerostar commands a premium, but the fact that these things are so cheap, they really have been largely forgotten, and they're, just a very good, basic, dependable van. And then when you throw in all the styling and everything like that, I think they're a true classic. So you're kind of getting that, you're getting something totally unique and funky. But, the values on these things just seem to be very, very low, which is good for a fellow like me who has an Aerostar buying compulsion. That being said, I have not contacted the seller. Indiana's a little far, and, we're trying to put our capital, what little we have of it, into other resources right now. So, this one, like so many, will probably slip through my fingers, but that's all right. We can appreciate it here on Year of the Aerostar. Now, just had the sliding door handle replaced. Little things like that. That to me is the sign of like, a car that's been well maintained. Like if you're going out of your way to fix a sliding door handle, now granted that may be an annoying feature to go out for something so small, but chances are you're going to do other stuff like oil changes at regular intervals and preventative maintenance and doing like spark plugs and wires. Just little things that aren't too big of a deal, but many people neglect. So I think that's a good sign right there. Obviously, just a beautiful, beautiful Aerostar. Now this, I don't know whether, it is a two-tone clearly, but a lot of the two-tone Aerostars earlier, you would have your lines coming up higher, or you would have this middle section, one color, and then these top and bottom sections another color, right on this ridge line here going down the fender. That would be sort of your demarcation point. So it is a two-tone, but it's subtle. It's basically, the trick that your eye plays on you is like, oh, well, only the bumpers are another color. And so it's very ahead of its time in that way, because now every single car you see, or many cars, all these Subarus. There's this, obsession, people call it a epidemic of black plastic cladding or gray plastic cladding, and that goes all the way back to Pontiac Aztec and a lot of these SUVs. But I get it. It's probably cheaper to manufacture. You can stamp it easier, and it is probably some sort of rust corrosion tactic. Just by virtue of the metal being up higher or being covered by plastic, it's harder for that vehicle to corrode. Now, if water gets in there, it's another story. But so you see a lot of cars that you might not call them two-tone because a lot of them are a dark gray or a black anyways. But even white ones, we've almost forgotten that there's this whole other color going on the car. But they really are kind of two-tone because it's not like your bodywork is going all the way down over your fenders and it's just one solid color. It's more than just like trim, I would say. It's actually a full, lower half of the body on a lot of these vehicles. So in that way, the Aerostar is very ahead of its time. And I wish more manufacturers would paint their plastic to, a gold color, for example. It would just look beautiful. Now, Lexus has done a lot of like white on gold, those really classy color schemes, and I like they do that. But even they seem to be getting away from that now. So I just think it's like a really nice subtle touch. It gives an air of class and sophistication to it. It just breaks up, the everydayness of most cars, and I think it's a wonderful, wonderful touch. So I wish more manufacturers would do that. But here, boy, just with the running board matching gold, it really is striking to me. Now, I find gold to be a much better, a lot of cars you'll find are silver on the bottom. My Sport indeed is silver, and maybe I'll eventually get, because it needs a little bit of work on the, now I'm venturing into my territory, but needs a little work here, so maybe I'll get all that trim painted gold and it'll be this very thing, this very color scheme. I think that would look really great, especially with your Sport badging and pinstriping and all that. So I digress again. But wow, this one really, really captured my attention because it's a beautiful color. I like the extended. I like that it's got these really shiny hubcaps and the gold and the running board. It's just like the complete package. It's just like a very, if foreboding could be a good quality, like benevolent foreboding, it just has like a presence to it, and I really, really like it. So there you go, a beautiful 1994 Ford Aerostar in Cambridge, Indiana for only $1,500. Jump on this, Aerostar fans. This is a value not to be missed. Now again, you may have to put another $1,500 into it, but even then you're at $3,000 for a car with 110,000 miles in fantastic aesthetic condition that will probably be in good running condition too. So you can't be afraid to put money in these cheap cars. You just got to visualize your budget a little bit higher than it looks like on paper, and then you'll still be getting, a decent deal, and then you'll have the satisfaction of either doing some of that work yourself or having the work done under your tutelage. So, if you're taking to a shop, at least you know what the maintenance is. You have an idea of what that car's needs are, what's been done, and then you slowly start checking off your list. And maybe your starter goes after you got your valve cover gasket done. But then eventually, hopefully you get to a point where almost everything's been replaced, and if you do it incrementally, it's not that expensive, and you have to do maintenance on any car anyway. So anyways, doesn't always work out that way. Sometimes your car just sits in a shop for a while, or sometimes you spend more than you think you were going to, and you talk yourselves into these things. But I think classic car ownership can be an affordable hobby, and that's sort of part of the underlying, pretext or, suppositions. I don't even know if these words make sense. So sort of the bedrocks of Year of the Aerostar is that the Aerostar is ascertainable, mass-produced classic car. And I think that's such a rare thing. Maybe not so rare, but, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. But the Aerostar's shape, even people who dismiss it or think it's stupid, like no one can deny that profile, it's like Barry White's voice. Like people may think Barry White is schmaltzy or that he's like a one-trick pony or like all the criticisms that have been, thrown at him. But he was an incredible figure. I mean, he was a record producer. He was like an orchestral mastermind. When David Bowie made the song 1984, he told his bassist and producer, Tony Visconti, he said, when they were talking about strings for that song, he said, give me the Barry White strings. You know, like real musicians know that like his orchestral string arrangements were amazing. And it's a good analogy because the Aerostar, at least, you know, everyone knows its shape. So it has at least that going for it. But if you really start to dig in, you'll see the versatility and, you know, just the sheer amount of them made. It was a successful product for Ford. But I think it gets cast off as this sort of forgotten thing behind Chrysler, who like quote unquote invented the minivan, and then behind the Astra, which is what people know of when they think of like a four-wheel drive utility van that's smaller in size. And I would say, you know, critics may say that the Aerostar is like the worst of both worlds. I would absolutely disagree. I think it's the best of all worlds. I think it's just a remarkable vehicle, and the fact that this was, you know, mass produced as a car with this iconic styling, and that it was also very functional and still lives on today in many, many examples, I think is just, you know, a ringing endorsement and tribute of and to Aerostars. So there you go. Waxing poetic today in my Buick hat on Year of the Aerostar. And thank you so much for watching here on Janky AF. And until next time, Janky do thanky.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.